Hello and welcome to VR Verdict episode 124, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR and AR this episode. I am PJ and I'm chatting with the team from Duel. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing to be here. Wonderful room.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So sitting next to me is...
Yeah, I'm Alan, and I'm sort of just keeping the wheels turning for Duel, trying to help develop things here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm Pratik. I'm helping develop out the lore, the content, that type of stuff with Duel.
Nice.
And I'm Andy, an obscure nerd VR on YouTube, and I'm also helping out. You might see my face here in Duel, and amongst other things, wherever I can with the story.
Yeah, I think you'll see all three of our faces in these videos.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
Yeah, there's Andy.
So tell me a little bit about Duel. How'd you guys get started and how's it going?
Yeah, I mean, well, it kind of got started a bit before I went to join the AR house, where basically all of us met. But basically, yeah, during my bachelor degree, I was building a wizard staff with an Arduino controller that will like change visuals on my computer. I think that kind of like made me want to see what we could do in AR or VR. But anyhow, the project is fairly new. I think like maybe 9 or 10 months old only. Mostly we're exploring the possibilities on Snapchat at the moment because they were so kind to take a bet on us. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the time at the AR house and all that jazz.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we all met at the AR house. Alan was part of, I guess, the first and second cohort there. I'm going to be part of the next one. And so I think when I met Alan, you had already built out the prototype. And we met when my brother joined the AR house, and he started pitching, or not pitching, but showing and telling me about the game. And we just started throwing ideas back and forth. And Andy had also been coming to AR house events pretty much just as long, if not longer than I had. And so kind of came in on the project the same way, where it's just like, we're just three friends and we're throwing ideas around and then trying different things out, and it just grew organically from there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had started hanging out with these guys and going to the events at the AR house as soon as I heard that it existed in our area. And and I had never gotten a chance to try any AR glasses yet, but I had been in the VR space since 2016. So once I started to get a chance to see these like applications that they were like putting together and the headsets they were working with hands-on, Duel was the first one that like immediately made sense to me as like a user, where I was like, oh, this makes sense, where I could like just give this to someone else. We'd both get it and know what it's about and be able to just start playing it and having fun. And like, it made a lot of sense to me as an easy entry point for people to like find a way into the tech, which I was really interested by.
Yeah, I think that combo of how fun and intuitive is that Andy was talking about is like the key. It's like everyone who tries it out immediately gets how the mechanic works and starts having fun running around the room playing it, So I think Alan really struck gold with that mechanic.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it was ever supposed to be this serious or in this scale, but and also a lot of props to Aidan. He helped a lot with the networking part of the first prototype. But really, I guess what made us see the potential was that we were throwing a Halloween party at the AR house, and then we were setting up a tournament for people to try the stuff. And yeah, we got the all the stuff working just, I think, half an hour before people came. So it was really just like super last minute. But anyhow, people seemed to like Pratik said, they were jumping around, rolling around the floor. At that point, there was no hand tracking, so people were up for a little bit of role play. So, but they also had costumes on, so that made it more fun.
Nice. So, kind of like obscure nerd, like I personally haven't tried any AR glasses to this day, so I'm really always obviously interested because I love VR so much. But I just, you know, I have a lot of headsets, and spending more on glasses and stuff. You got to think about it. But so with Wanduel and any other apps, I'm just curious, like, is there like a certain space you have to like stay in, or is it kind of just boundless, or how does that work with your game? Can you like run a mile away and flick?
Yeah.
Well, you both have to be on the same
Yeah,
network.
Alan might be best for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, you synchronize at first. There is multiple ways to synchronize. Localizing a multiplayer experience on AR, you can sort of scan the same object. You can have an image mugger that both of you sort of connect to, or you can synchronize by looking at the other person. That's what we're doing at the moment. The two players look at each other's head and they say, okay, now we synchronize. So, but with this way, it will drift a little bit over time. So if you run around in circles around each other, it might be offsetting a little bit. But this will be easy to solve with body tracking, which I think Snap will implement in the future. It works super well on phone, but not on the spectacles yet. Yeah, so onboarding on AR devices for shared experiences is still a little bit bulky. So I hope that will get more frictionless in the future.
Do you see? So I'm wearing a Quest 2 right now, and obviously has inside-out tracking and all that. Do you see this coming to like the Quest with the pass-through at all, or are you kind of just sticking to glasses and that kind of thing, or?
Oh yeah, I mean we've been talking about the Quest and
a lot.
Nreal and I don't know, Magic Leap as well. So we're definitely open to explore whatever comes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities there.
Nice.
That's the nice thing, is it seems like it's pretty flexible to be able to work on a lot of different platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like for me, it's just like Lens Studio is just really, really awesome. And going into Unity, you have to worry about what device you're building for, all this stuff. It just seems so overwhelming. While in Lens Studio, you don't even have to choose what device you're building for. It just sort of magically does it for you, and it's super fast to prototype. So Unity, it's a little bit of a big step going to Unity from Lens Studio, but he's also working a lot with the Unreal Engine, which we were talking about maybe taking a bigger bet on.
Yeah, and we're already using it for all the sort of content attached to the game that we want to use to build out sort of the lore and the universe and the story behind it. Because just being able to use and like mock up different ideas and then just keep refining them until it's like something that we can send out to the audience is really easy to do with Unreal, especially with a small team like ours. And so I'm able to build out a whole scene and then have Andy come in and basically do his part as an actor. And we can do this like with basically no budget,
that's
and those
awesome.
same assets, then if we do build out the game in Unreal for the Quest 2 or for another headset, we can use all those same assets in the game, you know.
Yeah.
So it simplifies our workflows going forward.
And I think for the Quest, getting back to question as well, I think the next version of Quest that will have RGB cameras is gonna be way more interesting for AR experiences, because now it's like a grainy white
Black
noise
and
kind
white,
of experience.
It's on
Where
its
it's
way.
like
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
overlay everything before it looks good, and then it's just VR all over again. But also, what I really like about lightweight glasses like Nreal and spectacles is that you can actually wear them outside, and in 100 degrees you can use them for running as well, which I do sometimes. But I find that hard to see with the Oculus. I think it's more of an indoor device,
Right.
in the majority.
Yeah.
So right now, and I'm just going by the videos I've seen. It looks like it's kind of a multiplayer thing where you're kind of shooting wands at each other. Are you guys planning, like, I assume with the assets and characters and the story and lore, you're kind of making like a one-player game where you're like fighting the enemies and stuff like that, or what are you working on?
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. And so we just finished our third version for the spectacles, and that will have multiplayer and single player in the same lens or game, if you will. And now, yeah, we are sort of working on a phone version, also for Snapchat, and there we need to also finalize the storyline and so on, but there you will see more of Andy and his character and all the creatures. So
Yeah, sort of guiding you through the single player troublesome story that will take you on.
Can you do a little snippet of your spiel, or you like have a voice you're doing?
It's all under many NDAs, you know.
Okay.
But imagine me, but a bit more magical.
That's kind of hard. You're pretty magical.
Oh, that is true. That is a fact. That's why I was drawn to this as a personal connection.
So Gary Merlin, he's I mean, what we are kind of brainstorming about now, probably Gary Merlin, he will be this character that is not evil or good. He's in between. He's the main go-to guy that you will sort of learn stuff from, learn spells from as you meet him. He's the first person you'll meet. So whether you'd also we're thinking of having two factions, so there's a good and an evil faction. So no matter what faction you choose, you will still have interactions with Gary. Also, that's gonna make our jobs a little bit easier because we don't have to make multiple characters for that.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah,
so
could
I'm
have a
assuming
sort of like
Luminous and
omniscient
Obscurus
presence
are
to push it.
But yeah, and I mean, yeah, maybe we can talk about this stuff we were filming and or just for fun filming at the Air House as well. But there we were kind of imagining him more like a Rick Sanchez kind of guy, drinking too many potions and so on.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we're having a lot of fun with the dialogue.
Dubious quest. Yeah, definitely. And so,
Well, I tell
that's
you,
the other cool.
You guys
I was
are
gonna
making
say-
me wanting to get a pair of glasses real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know if you have more to tell about the shoot we did.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah.
gonna say like, oh, go ahead.
Say it. Say it.
So one of the cool things about shooting everything in Unreal is it gives us the space to go through those like being able to improvise, which we really couldn't do with this type of like 3D animation in the past, you know. And so and being able to just like capture Andy's performance using ARKit makes it like really easy to just set up and then have him go through and not think too much about the the ritual behind the setup and just focus on the performance, you know.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised by how seamless it all was once we got, sort of the light and the camera and the shot setup of just, going
Mhm.
through it a couple times, and then also giving us a couple options of how much augmentation we want on the performance. I think is sort of a cool aspect to the final product.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and we really wanna like. I mean, it's nowadays it's kind of easy to make something that looks cool, that feels cool, but I think what we want to try as well is just really focus on humor as well, bring
Mhm.
comedy and humor into the game. I think that
Yeah.
that is kind of like the main selling point or whatever you will.
I like the
Yeah, you
sound
got to
of
have
that.
just a little bit of personality in every game to keep people on board. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
try to sell something on a concept without thinking about the world or personality of it. So I think it's an important aspect of it.
So I'm still, again, I'm watching the video and looks like you have an avatar system as well. How does that play into the app?
Oh,
Uh,
so
Or am I
we
reading
so,
that wrong?
so we actually, I mean that stuff we're working on for phone and will
Okay.
be but yeah, I mean Andy, he's the first avatar in the
Yeah.
making kind of. We don't have an avatar system yet, but I mean Snap has something called Bitmojis, which is, yeah, I mean what any platform has nowadays, a 3D representation
Mhm.
of yourself. We could choose to use those, but I think we eventually want to make our own avatars. But yeah, Andy, he's a great start, I think.
Yeah, I volunteered to be the guinea pig for the meta avatars.
Yeah.
We got to get ourselves in the metaverse wherever we can.
That's right. Oh, what do you guys think of the meta avatars? Because I'm not a fan myself, but
Oh, like the
Yeah,
Horizon Worlds meta avatars?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I
they're not great.
yeah, I
yeah.
need some legs, man. It looks horrible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind they're pointing different or wrongly pointing somewhere else. That will look better just than what we have now without legs. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Not that we can talk right here. We got pills and a ball for a head, but
Oh, but
Yeah.
this is awesome. This is like,
Yeah.
the this is representing the golden era of a gorilla tag.
yeah,
I think.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, at least you chose a style right. They're like, they finally put in arms, but they
yeah.
forgot the legs, right? But you're consistent here. You
Yeah.
chose, okay, we're gonna use the capsules and the spheres. That's it. I like that
Yeah.
minimalism.
So how different is, I don't know if you guys have done what you've done in either VR or AR, but how different is it kind of developing a gamer app for one or the other versus the other one? Like how different is the world, or how you wrap your head around what you're doing?
Yeah. Do you guys wanna answer or?
I mean, it's just you're approaching different problems, right? With AR, you're adding on to the world that's already there. Um, so, like, there are a lot more tools that help you get started, but you have to really think about like where your experience is going to be. So, for like one of the projects we did, like we had to specifically design it for like being at a desk in a desktop situation, um, and like for this game, it's like it's specifically made to be like running around in an open space. Whereas VR, you can kind of say like, okay, within like a 10 by 10 space or so, um, you can design your experience and you have like a blank box to go from there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
much of a designer myself, but just like conceptually, I always try. Yeah, think of it in the sense of like augmented reality apps seem to enhance the space and the surroundings of the real world.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're designing for VR, it's about like forgetting the space around you and just being totally involved in the virtual space.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's very different from each other, right? Because first of all you got the character limitations, the polygon counts, triangle counts needs to be around 3,500 for the characters before the devices doesn't overheat. You always need to localize downwards to use plane tracking, to not have items float around. So I feel like a lot of the onboarding in AR is very, I don't know, early stage. We're still in the beginning of everything. But then again, for VR and Unity, there's a lot of other things that are really hard. You need to basically build a whole new world, build avatars, all that stuff. In our case, we don't need to build a whole new world. We just, like Andy said, just add things on top of the beautiful planet we live on. So
Yeah, it's like two different sets of challenges that kind of overlap sometimes.
yeah, yeah, and I guess eventually we'll see things are just merging. There'll be no difference between, or hardware-wise, there'll be no difference between AR and VR. It's just like, boom, you go into this portal, and maybe that's a VR world. You leave the portal, now you're in AR again. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like with AR going from the AR side, it's like you're getting local dimming and stuff, which helps it become more like VR. And then from the VR side, you get pass through, which basically starts to emulate AR. And so there's definitely a merger from both sides happening.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Link's headset has done a really great job of that. They are using the Leap Motion Ultra Leap hand tracking, the best hand tracking I ever tried before. And their demonstration they did at AVE was they have a bubble.
Oof.
You go into the bubble and boom, suddenly all of your view is a galaxy, and in there's a solar system. So that's like a really great example of how you can transition quickly into VR from AR. And
That's amazing.
a small French startup, they just launched their headset or they just ended the campaign on Kickstarter, and they got funded. They raised 4 million from Somnomium Space. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yeah, you should definitely pay attention to those guys. The headset is only $600, I think. But it's still uncertain when you're gonna get it. But yeah, I think
I think
those
it's
are the
just
guys
starting to come out.
do the revolution against the SOC.
I still need to try that out.
Yeah, I got to try it out at AWE. It's good hardware.
Yeah,
I think we're still a couple of years away from like the thing that's going to help people from outside of the space really come in.
Yeah.
I think it's still a headset very much made for like developers who are developing things and experiences for the future, for headsets that are slightly more comfortable and things like that.
Yeah, and what are we thinking?
It's getting us closer to that point.
Yeah, exactly. And what are we thinking until headsets are getting to the mainstream and the masses? Are people gonna focus on mobile gaming or desktop gaming? What do you think is gonna be the major thing that people do while they're waiting for a headset?
I think it's going to be both, just like it is now.
Yeah.
Mobile for more casual stuff, sort of desktop and console for longer, more fulfilling experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So, and then I think you're going to start to see VR come sort of in between both of those and attack both. Like Beat Saber is a game that you can just like pick up, play for half an hour, put down, walk away. But then you're also seeing a lot more, like Resident Evil 4 and these like longer sort of narrative type games that are like 20 to 40 hour experiences. So
yeah, True.
Yeah, and I think with AR, you get into the realm of like these sort of persistent games, like almost like a layer on top of reality, like Pokemon Go,
Yeah.
right? Like if you have a headset on all the time and you're like an avid Pokemon Go player, you could have that layer on all the time, so you randomly see Pokemon pop up and like you can catch them and whatnot.
Yeah, you can sort of choose how much you want to be like invested in it, whether you want to be like fully augmented or like just sort of be, you know, put in front of it at certain times of day, or like, you know, I'm walking around, maybe I want to check in on the Pokemon universe, turn that on, so that's another layer I have. You know, like I feel like down the road there's going to be more and more things like that happening, where it's like you can choose what level, you know, of augmentation and which one of these apps you want to be sort of active in your life at any given time.
Yeah. And that behavior is already there, right? Like with mobile, you see it's like there's people who have those games that they're super invested in, that like they literally just, it's like always like the first or second in their like most recently used apps on their phone, because there's like anytime they're going from place to place, they're like checking like what's along the way, you know?
Yeah. And that's why I love the concept of wand duel too, because it's like the idea that like down the road, imagine you're just walking on the street and like AR glasses are sort of normalized and on a similar platform, and you can just run into someone and be like, hey, I challenge you to a duel. And you just grab a stick, you guys just grab your stick or whatever, or a pen, and you can just have like a full on wand duel right there on the street.
Exactly.
You know, fully interactive. Like that's amazing. Let's settle duels with less Hamilton style battles and more wands.
I was gonna ask, like, do you need like something in your hand with wand duel, or is it just help makes it feel more immersive and a little better?
Spoiler alert, you don't. But probably in the future we will. Who know? I mean, depends on the headsets as well, right? If we're ever gonna launch something on the Quest, you can use the controllers they already have. Also, an idea was to kind of use object detection on the wand itself. So you need to show a wand as a key to be able to play. But that's also, there's a lot of problems there, because most wands are kind of like in the darker tones of wood. So it's kind of hard to recognize wands. If all wands were white, as the capsules we have here, it will be more easier.
Yeah, that was like one of the things when we were making that first video, is we forgot to mark up the wands we were using as props, and so I had to like go and like track frame by frame like manually, because like there's no way to get an auto track.
Fuck.
Normalized bone wands.
Yeah.
Think of the merchandising.
Yeah, right.
A bone wand would be pretty epic.
Yeah.
I mean, all I'm saying is it'd be cooler than whatever the Elder Wand, whatever Voldemort was using. Come on.
That was a white wand too, though.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Or I think it just had a white hilt. Yeah.
Yeah, it had some accoutrement.
Yeah.
It would be pretty epic. Like you're saying, like you're just walking down the street and you can kind of, you know, whether you get a little notification or something, but like, you know, if that's from the other school or whatever, the faction, and you just whip out your wand and have a fight. in the middle of nowhere. That'd be sweet.
And that's also something I'm seeing will happen maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years down the line. Then experiences will be proximity based. So probably with Bluetooth, you will be able to, the headsets will be able to say, oh, Andy and Pratik, they're within 10 meters. Okay, I now spawn a multiplayer space that we can have fun in, instead of having to localize and, hey, do you want to invite people? Do you want to join my space? Then it just happens instantly based on proximity. I think that's like the holy grail of multiplayer gaming.
And then we can also do different experiences where like instead of like players like who are if like 2 players in proximity to one another are on the same team, we can spar like a third party element that they both have to like work against to try and solve, to like defeat an enemy or like to solve a puzzle box or something like that. And so
that'd be cool.
once the behavior of like wearing headsets like all day in public is more common, then there's like a whole host of different like fun interactions and stuff that we can use to like trigger in-game events.
Yeah. When it's stigmatized to not wear a headset.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
live in frickin'
Yeah.
Wisconsin, and I walk around my area with my Quest on, and the looks I get are like, what the fuck is that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it was kind of the
I
same
can't
way with
imagine.
like iPhones and cell phones when those first came
Yeah.
out, you know,
Yeah.
where they're like, oh, what's that thing? Oh, why do you need a cell phone with you all the time? You're so important. You got to be reached all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And
You
then
got to
now
play
we're
Beat
like,
Saber on the train.
Yeah.
yeah. And now it's like, oh, you think you're so important. You don't need a phone. You don't need to be reached all the time.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like flipped.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what excites me about AR. Well, one thing, like you guys were mentioning, like sitting in a waiting room and people playing on their phones. Like I do other things on my phone because I've never really found a mobile game I've really been able to get into. But if you had AR glasses on, you could just throw up even like a freaking checkerboard and just play checkers with a random stranger in a waiting room. Like that'd
Yeah.
be freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Just like these real-time interactions that can happen in like a whole new layer of reality that isn't even like the regular social, real
Yeah.
reality we're all used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just playing games on the toilet instead of
You know what it-
scrolling your feed.
You know what it reminds me of is like back in the day when I used to sit on the bus in middle school and you would just join random people's Nintendo DS lobbies.
Yeah.
It's like
Ah.
that, but on like a whole new level
Yep.
True.
where you could just see somebody's doing something, just hop in on it and just be like, hey, let's do this until we don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. And
I think.
and oh yeah, and just quickly, like I've been wearing the spectacles to some parties once in a while, but even though they have LED lights that indicates that that the LED lights are on when you film, right? But still people don't trust, oh, the camera is pointing at me and so on. So I think
Yeah.
what's really important for the future is that all headsets will have mechanical shutters, so you can
Yep.
like some of the laptops have today, you can just slide a plastic piece in front of your webcam. I think that should be something that all headset manufacturers should implement, just to not have everything you say or do being recorded on a video.
Yeah, you hear that, Facebook?
But
We're
you were
looking at
trying to
you.
say something, PJ, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just take all of the data, right? So.
Yeah, because going back to just random encounters with strangers, like again, I live in Wisconsin. I'm not into sports or anything. Like I'm not the normal person from this area. So like small talk is hard for me because I'm not good at it because I don't have those similar experiences like sports that I can, hey, did you see the game last night? But if
Yeah.
just throwing a fake object at someone in AR and just goofing around,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that would change a lot of reactions and get people talking more maybe and stuff like that.
Yeah. Kind of like a harmless like snowball, like a snowball fight that doesn't
Exactly.
hurt,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's like once it becomes accessible on platforms that people already use, I think is when it'll really be a game changer. When like glasses make sense to just a regular consumer who's not into the tech, and they'll just sort of buy into it and then be exposed to all these new experiences that they realize are just fun, even on a casual level.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Imagine
I
just
think
doing
that's
your
how, like-
laundry and a Pokemon pops up and you can catch it and go back to doing your laundry.
Yeah,
True,
exactly.
yeah.
Like think about it, like all the people who are like, in their, like I know a lot of people who are in their like late 60s who are into like mobile games now, just because they hit a point where they had to get a smartphone for utility purposes, and then eventually they get exposed to these games or technologies that they never would have sought out, but they realize how cool it is even for someone who doesn't really get the tech of it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I saw a video on Twitter of somebody who, like, the traffic lights, you have that button you can press while you wait, he turned that into a mini game. So when he was like waiting his 10 seconds, he could play. I think it was Pong or something trivial,
Nice.
but still just these like, small mini games that you can have spawn just at any given time you're waiting for something. I think
That's cool.
that could be scary and good at the same time if you can control it. But yeah,
My mind went
Depends how
right to
good we
like
get
you hit
those
that
automatic
button.
cars.
Yeah, and the world turns into like Frogger, and you got to get across the street. Not safe, but fun.
Yeah, if you die in the metaverse, you die in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's life on hard difficulty right there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, with VR and AR development, like, as far as the really good VR games goes, and Unreal Engine based stuff, we almost at photorealistic things,
Yeah.
at least if you try on a Vario headset, right? So I wonder when the headsets are getting to the masses and the mainstream, I wonder, is there anything left to develop at that point? Have we already developed everything? We're just waiting for the hardware, basically.
No, I mean, I think even with the photorealism, it's like, okay, like Unreal Engine is at the point where like the default results with like a little bit of tweaking and optimizing will get you to like 90%, right?
Yeah,
But getting that other 10% is like that never ending journey of work. There's always something new that they can figure out and implement that'll make it look even more real. Like little
yeah,
things like caustics and things like that still take even like for offline rendering like days to figure out, right? Um, so it's like we get close to photorealism, but we'll get to a point where like a lot of people won't be able to tell the difference, but we'll never quite get there for a while.
true, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
John
interesting thing
Carmack,
to me is like I feel like the uncanny valley keeps getting pushed,
Yeah.
We're like
Yeah.
when I was a
It's
kid,
getting
I
smaller
have a
and smaller,
distinct
but like,
memory,
true.
right? Like I have a distinct memory of sitting down and watching a PS3 game when they had first added like water physics and like
yeah.
real-time water particles. And I sat down and I stood up and I clapped my hands. And I said, "All right, graphics can't get better. That's it." I was like, "That's real life." And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
like last year I went back and I rewatched that. It was the first Uncharted trailer, and I was like, "This looks like clay models now." And
Yeah.
but in my eyes back then, I couldn't conceive of anything that could be better. So I
Yeah.
imagine it's just always going to be like that to some degree, until we get like past the uncanny valley completely.
Yeah.
True.
And it's not like there's just like one problem that people are trying to go after, like just the general graphics problem, right? It's like that one thing is made up of so many tiny little things
Yeah.
that people can work on and improve and get better at. And, it gets like easier to render those things and like have those work in real time and all that too, right? So
Yeah,
it's like a whole host of different problems that need to be solved. So
true. Yeah, and John Carmack, I heard him say also there was a guy asking him some questions, but he was basically, yeah, if you expect the graphics to be 50% better, you're gonna be disappointed, but maybe it'll get 10% better, like you said. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we should
yeah.
suspect.
Yeah, I do think we're over that era of just being like absolutely blown away by every
Yeah.
generation.
Now it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
It
to
is
be
a little
honest,
bit
I think
better.
the next step of things that blow people away and like at least in terms of flat gaming is going to be like steps in physics, like real-time physics and animation. Because I
True.
think that's like once you get graphics perfect, the thing that's still way far off from being like perfected, I think, is real-time physics and animation. Where like you can make it look as good as you want, but you're still going to play GTA and run into a tree and have it like be like a brick wall.
Yeah.
So until you can
And then
solve
like
that
you run into
problem
a light
completely,
pole and
there's
then it
always
just
room.
falls over.
Exactly, yeah. So there's always good until they can solve the physics issue in video games, which I think is going to be the hardest thing over time. I think
Yeah.
we're always going to keep being wowed to some degree.
No.
True. What do you guys think about, like, will there ever be a time where most people can make a living from playing video games? Like, I'm specifically thinking about play to earn schemes, it doesn't seem like play to earn schemes brings in people enough crypto or money to survive, because it's all relying on the company itself just pouring in money, so it's not sustainable. And then I'm thinking, then you probably need ads. You probably need ads, otherwise there's no. But
Yeah.
is there gonna be a lot of people like making a living from gaming outside Twitch? Do you think that?
My brain jumps to, and I've been talking to the team from Markets VR who will be talking on the podcast in a couple weeks, but the way I see it, not gaming so much, but like in VR, like they're going to have this marketplace where you can line up people that like they do modeling or they do lighting or animation, and you can go to their little marketplace and like hire them and stuff like that, and kind of
So yeah,
grow
kind of like a
that
3D
way.
Upwork.
Yeah, and kind of grow from
That's
there,
awesome.
and then
Yeah.
We need
Yeah, I
to.
do
otherwise
think
the only
that
thing
type
I
of
can
stuff.
think of
Yeah.
is World of Warcraft, where those people earn all that gold and then sell it. In real life.
Man, I never even thought about that. Like,
fucking farming, right? And I remember the Asians was pretty good at that. They were like
Yeah.
farming a lot of gold in World of Warcraft. Yeah, you want it, so.
Yeah.
I never even
But,
thought about the like capabilities of like having like a networking event or career fair for like a game-based like company or industry where people can just have a little like table where they just have their actual animations or 3D models like just pulled up right there, so like a potential employer can just come up and look at your models and your stuff up close.
Yep.
Yeah,
kind of
Like,
like
that's
a
kind of a
like
cool
a
idea.
like a 3D portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where they
and
can flip through your
kinda like
portfolio, but
Gravity
it's all
Sketch,
right
right?
there. Yeah. I never
So,
thought
and
about
also
that till right
Gravity
now.
Sketch has a multiplayer feature. So I haven't tried it
Yeah.
yet, but looks amazing.
I didn't know that that
Um,
was a thing, but I'm looking into that right after this.
Well, I don't want to say too much about the Markets VR thing, but he was saying, if you're based in VR chat and you're in someone's booth, say like, hey, this looks really cool, and then they have a little portal next door. You hop into their actual VR realm, like in
Yeah, see,
VR
it sounds like
chat or
they're
whatever.
already onto
Oh,
it.
nice.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And
There's
did
a lot of
did I
aging,
just
though, with
get
that.
charged $100? Or-
Yeah.
Well,
But
hopefully
like,
VR chat still exists next week.
yeah, really.
Yeah. Yeah, Andy, you've been going on quite a few rants about that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Obscure nerd for your VR gossip news and
Yeah, get all your hot
comedy
goss.
and making friends in FPS games.
Those are my main three things I do at this point, and the Wendy's verse.
Yeah. Yeah, I like when he tries to befriend people in Pavlov that is obviously on the other team or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I get team killed, which is how I know I'm doing something wrong socially.
That used to happen in flag gaming a lot, but in VR, like it's a whole nother feeling. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, right. You're like talking to the guy for a while, and then
and
they
you
just
watch
turn
him
around
pull
and
a
shoot
gun up,
you.
and it's in your face, and then you're dead.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a whole new visceral feeling, man.
yeah.
I felt real betrayal on the battlefield.
Yeah, so just getting back to AR again, also, what would be, or what would be a favorite or what would be something you would find really cool, PJ? Or what is something you're looking forward to, or something you wish that existed out there?
It's kind of just how VR came about to me, because like I've been a gamer all my life. I play a shit ton of games on every platform I can, and the last couple years, 5-ish years, like flat gaming is just like they're just copying and pasting everything. And I'm like, either I'm getting old and I'm just I'm not into it, or gaming is sucking right now. And I was really
Yeah.
like, I think I'm just getting old, and that was pissing me off. then VR came along, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm not getting old. The games do suck. This is a whole new awesome thing. So it kind of like really brought me out of that rut. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
looking forward or looking for AR to. I'm not sick of VR at all. I'm kind of looking just for that same kind of like shock, like the first time you put a headset on, you're like, holy crap, that type of thing. But mainly to me, I'd get the most value out of it. Just having, I don't wear glasses, but I'll happily wear AR glasses. Just something that makes everyday life a little less, I don't want to say boring, but just ordinary. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to walk down the street and see some funny shit that really isn't there over something that is, type of thing. If that makes
Right.
sense.
So something that surprises you based on your surroundings.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
the
it's like
everyday
you
mundane
could take the
tasks.
same you could take the same walk at home from work every single day and have it be a totally unique
Different
experience on
experience.
top
Yeah.
of the
Now we're
already
talking.
unique experience
Yeah.
of life.
Yep.
It's like
That's
a
my
unique
man.
it's like a unique living thing that interacts with the living world.
Or like,
That's actually excellent.
I love my cats.
I would buy
but
that
if I could change
experience.
their color and just mix it up,
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
true.
Give your cat a face tattoo or something like that.
Yeah.
That's not actually there.
A little pirate hat. I don't care what it is, just something.
My Takashi 69 cat.
Yeah. Rainbow haircut, face tattoo. Little cat grill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I can't wait to also experience that. Wow, now we hear that feeling. But yeah, I agree. I mean, for as far as desktop gaming go, I think we're kind of reaching the limits of what is the optimal. Like for example, Valorant, one of the most beautiful games I've seen. Haven't tried it because my laptop sucks, but but I assume I can't possibly imagine what is like what's the next step after Valorant and Call of Duty where they're at now. It's like for me it just seems like they reached full potential. But
yeah.
maybe I'm also just getting old.
I think for me, it was just like the creativity is what is like 50% of what I've always loved about gaming in the last couple years. Like, there's the indie games have been phenomenal, and there's other games, but overall, like the most part, like creativity is just gone. And like I said, they're just making the same game,
Yeah.
changing one thing, and it's just like, you know what, fuck this.
Yeah, that's like there's basically just three types of games, right? Strategy
Yeah.
games, RPG games like Dark Souls, WoW, and so on, and then
Yeah.
FPS games. And
I think with AR, the one of the best premises is just the friction to get into it. Like VR, I get like there's hurdles, and for different people, there's more hurdles, like with motion sickness and all that. Where AR just seems like you just put some glasses on and that's it, and everyone can wear a pair of glasses for a little bit. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest things are just like the battery and like processing power. You need to get more powerful for AR glasses.
Yeah,
that way they
sort
can
of the
get
same
lighter.
issues as VR, but on a different level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because like the cool thing for me is like the only development I ever did was like in the Half-Life 2 modding space in like the early 2006, 2007 era.
Oh yeah.
Right. And back then, the big issue that we had was like polygon limits and like really having to work within the limits of the system so it didn't crash people's computers.
Yeah.
And like recently, people are talking about how like that's not really an issue anymore with like PC gaming and the new Unreal Engine and what they're doing. And so like seeing the limitations that are now being reintroduced with having to get it to work on a standalone
Yeah.
AR platform makes me like totally appreciate those like old school approaches to modeling and game development again, and how they're still totally important and prevalent when I didn't know if they would be.
Yeah, it's insane actually. Like so for Lens Studio you got like 8 megabyte, and for for a quest game, I think for an app lab game, I can't remember, but I think at least you will have 500 megabyte. So it's
Well,
like
I've seen games as big as like 8 gigs.
8
Quest.
gigs even, yeah, right.
Yeah, 10 gigs.
And also, but also for Niantic's platform, I think you're able to have 2 gigabyte. So it's just
that's way better.
But yeah, it seems like TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat is like they're really like worried about performance, so they're keeping asset counts low and polygon count low. So yeah, the main problems, as Andy also said, is like overheating and battery time, and both of them are kind of trade-offs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we've kind of talked about this in our dev roundtable we do once a month. And it's kind of for VR, like some of the draw to me is the romanticism of, like you were saying, kind of went back to old school where you got to be creative and solve the same problems they were dealing with. That's why like games like Shock Troops that launched today, and that's where these assets are from for our booth here.
Yeah, I love
it's
it.
just, and again, it might be because I am older and I grew up in the area, but hopping into those worlds, it's just like I don't want to ever take my headset off, and it's just like pixelated and all that, but it's just amazing to be in there. So yeah, it's kind of strange.
Yeah. History repeats itself.
Yeah, but at the same time, on the
really
complete like other end of that spectrum, because of the like the stuff that's like more cutting edge that you can do with Unreal, with like nanite and things like that. All of a sudden, like back in the day, it's like they would have the optimized version of the asset for the games, but then if they're rendering out a cinematic, they're still going to use like the nicest asset that their system at the time could support, right? Whereas now we're just using the same single asset for both those things,
Yeah,
it is pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing how it simplifies that process. Because I do remember in 2006, the whole process of like making a high poly mesh and then baking it down to a low poly mesh and doing it was all sorts of hoopla that I feel like has just been simplified recently.
Yeah,
like you have more AI tools you can use for troubleshooting things, but it's still like kind of pain in the ass to do.
You still have to have like that artist touch on top of it, on top of the AI tool.
Yeah, you got to be able to give it that look. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, I just gave it all I had for 10 hours, and now you tell me I have to redo the whole model. It's like, welcome to game universe.
That was how I learned about poly count limits. Is I didn't understand that concept when I was doing Half-Life mods at first.
Yeah,
and I was helping out with a game where I was like, I make Blender models. I'll just make the model you want. And they were like, we need this shotgun. I sent them a model that I think was 50,000 polygons in 2006. And they loaded it into the game and it crashed the entire game. And they're like, do you have a low poly version of that? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's really funny.
And that's how I learned that there was something important there.
That's somebody else's job. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it was like low poly. I made the model. You figure out what to do with it. I just sent it to you and assumed you know how to make it work. Those are the good old days.
I also think I made a Counter-Strike map at some point. Also didn't go too well.
Oh
yeah. I have a feeling we're going to kind of get back to those days of like mods and things like that with Bone Labs coming out soon. Because it's like that golden age of like Half-Life mods and like StarCraft and Warcraft mods that literally ended up turning into like entirely like new games from that point forward. You know.
It trained a whole era of developers like Gary's Mod and like Stanley Parable, like all those games came out of it.
And something like Neos VR seems like, and Somnium Space and Monaverse and all these places seems awesome. I really just hope they start monetizing soon, so people flock to these places and start building. I mean, now it's like, I assume it's mostly people with full-time jobs that do this on the side because they can.
Or
But it would
kids.
be awesome to see people, making a living, making mods,
Yeah,
worlds
outside of
for
the meta space.
yeah. I'm not taking 60% or
Yeah.
how much mark you wanted for your pants or your space. No.
That's crazy. Going back to your other question, like what would I want out of AR glasses? The moment I see an app or game that where you're wearing the glasses and I can just look at like my coffee table, or again, like I sound like I spend a lot of time in waiting rooms. I really don't, but just that's the scenario, like where I could put like a Micro Machines track down and race some freaking cars around, like then I'm
Cool.
buying it.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever played have you played the iOS game ZG Revenant?
Nope.
I would check it out.
out.
It's like it's a little like desktop AR game. So it puts this like little map on your table, and basically you are controlling an
gotta go,
attack
guys.
helicopter. Yeah, you play the role of like an attack helicopter that you're controlling and like going after the enemies on this map on your desk. It's pretty fun.
Nice.
It's like it's
Right.
kind of the mobile version of what you're talking about, and so that type of experience in a headset would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
I will say,
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, like stuff like that, like AR experiences like that, for example, are things that I never knew existed until I started going to the AR house and I started seeing what they were doing there. Because myself and I think 90% of people think of AR as like Pokemon Go experiences
Yeah.
exclusively, and that's how I did
Yeah.
before I started going there and really looking into it. But the stuff that they're doing is really next level. Like there's people developing games there that like combine AR and VR, where like one person can have a phone that's looking at a table that's projecting,
Oh yeah, Dave's project.
totally, and can be in a totally virtual environment, and then another person can just point their phone at a table and the whole virtual level. So imagine like a Pavlov map or something like that. Just like lay it out on a 3D level on your phone screen that you can watch everything happening
That's
in the
cool.
virtual environment happening there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Like that kind of tech I didn't know existed until I started going to that, their events there.
Yeah, they're really pushing it, and
Mhm.
I hope
It's a really great
soon
space. Yeah.
we see something else than, because like every AR game studio is always using Pokemon Go as a benchmark, right? Pokemon
Yeah.
Go has been on the throne by itself for
Yeah.
I don't know when it was released, maybe 10 years ago or something. Nothing came close to it, and still hasn't. And what it is, essentially, if you think about it, the AR is sort of limited on the
It's really
Pokemon Go,
very
but
simple. Yeah.
what it is, it's a game that uses a map. Everybody knows how to use a map, so
Mhm.
but nobody since has really made a game that is based on a map since then. So I think it's
Was
about time that
Yeah.
we do
I think
something
the thing
about
that made
Yeah.
Pokemon successful too is the fact that like that mechanic of like traveling around the map tied in
Also
so
that,
well
yeah.
with their existing IP, where
Yeah.
when you're playing the handheld game, that's exactly what you're doing in the RPG, right? You're walking around a map trying to catch Pokemon.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
a good
bringing
point.
that. It's
That's
bringing
probably why it
that
didn't
action.
translate to the Wizard AR
Yeah,
game.
the Harry Potter one. Yeah, where like they basically tried to copy that mechanic but apply it to the Harry Potter
Yeah.
IP, and
like
there is no
90% of people.
yeah, and it just doesn't work as well as it did with Pokemon. Like the sync between those two worked really well. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how simple the experience is if that just core exploration mechanic is fun for users. And so
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard to dethrone Pokemon Go in terms of money because it's just like one of the most successful games of all time. Period.
Yeah,
I
Like, not
think it's
even
going to
within
be
the AR
content
space.
that fills it. It's going to be because, like, again, like I never really fully appreciated the capabilities of AR as a creative and entertainment platform until I went to the house, because Pokemon Go and most of those things, I think sell short the capabilities of AR and what it can do for an experience. And I think once somebody hits that magic mark of marketing and XYZ of getting an experience that's on the level of what you guys are doing and what people are doing at the AR house and in other spaces already, and gets it in as many eyes as Pokemon Go is in front of, I think that's all it'll take is exposing that market to like what is already capable and what is going to be capable in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, and I think one thing is also why nothing has come close to Pokemon Go is like all these AR platforms like Lens Studio and Spark AR and most recently TikTok's Effect House. They still haven't yet given developers any way to monetize their work in terms of their lenses and their games. So I think that hopefully we'll see interesting stuff launching soon regards to that. I heard some rumors about that Snapchat wanted to make their lenses NFTs, but then that was kind of debunked again. But yeah. I think they should make an app store as far as Snap goes. Really, just here's my game.
I think that's a great call, actually.
Pay $10 and it's yours. Yeah,
make it on any scale of free plus, just like the App Store.
Yep. Well, and it's also not completely true what I'm saying, because Snap has something called Minis, which is like, well, there's not that many AR mini games yet, but they're coming. But the way to monetize there is like, let's say you die, then you'll see an ad or something like that. So that's like based on advertising. So
kind of similar to like the Unity model.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like loads of more stuff needs to happen in that space so we can build a thriving ecosystem instead of just doing experiments that don't necessarily pay the rent. But,
yeah, that's why I love talking to you guys and devs like yourselves, just hearing the passion and all the creative ideas and stuff. But it is like the barrier, just how do you make it, how do you make money and feed yourself and do these cool things, and how does it translate into getting to in everyone else's hands and that stuff. So it's, how do you guys, I always say you guys have balls, because you're doing such awesome things, but you kind of know like how long it could take to actually start making some profits and all that. I don't know how it all works myself, but these are all the things.
You're doing it too. I know how the YouTube and podcast stuff goes. You're right. You're right there with us.
I honestly, this is just, I love VR so much. This is, I don't want to say it's a hobby, but I never plan to ever make a dime. I pay for everything.
That's the best approach. You shouldn't assume on the dime.
Yeah.
Just hope that eventually it could come.
And then when it blows up, we will heavily donate some money to the podcast. But yeah, I think it's like Andy said, it's not far, like what we're doing is not far from what you're doing. What you did is just you chose a platform, you stuck with it and went for it. Same we did with Snap. We got lucky. They have been really good to us. So yeah, I think also an advice to just any indie developers getting started: find a platform you like to develop on, make some relationship to the company, and if you make cool shit or something interesting, there's a good chance they might support you because you're doing R&D work for them.
Good point. Yeah.
Especially TikTok, I think they are gonna pour a gazillion coins into.
It's obviously the best advice I've heard all year.
Yeah. But yeah, again, Snapchat is also great. Spark AR, don't know so much about, but they seem to also be very supportive. of their community. The only complaints I hear there is like maybe you publish a filter and 2 years later it doesn't work. So that kind of the stuff that people complain about in that camp.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've been going about an hour. We can keep going, or I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to bring up that we didn't get to, but you guys are selling me on
whatever
AR.
you guys want.
I may have glasses by the end of the week. We'll see.
I'll send you some sponsored links. We'll get you going.
Ooh.
So if any sponsors are looking, I need some sponsored links to send them now. I don't have any.
Yeah. I hear
keep one of
get
them
onto
for
that
myself.
seat geek. You know,
yeah,
they're
right.
gonna-
Yeah, we'll get you a seat geek.
and some Amazon affiliate links.
Yeah.
Should be good.
We can change from VR verdict to XR verdict, I guess, pretty easily. And
I
just
like that.
incorporate all of it.
Yeah.
Just send me your number and I'll send it to my people's people.
Gotcha.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. At some point, things are gonna merge, right? And then
Oh yeah.
I don't necessarily think it will be called XR or. I mean, the VR verdict sounds great. It's a good name, but yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. It was awesome talking to you and hearing your stories. Should have you guys back and just kind of explain like the AR house, because there's so much cool shit going on there, and it'd just be cool to hear about some more of it. Justin from Tab Games and Johnny from Weird Kid Studios are part of our roundtable, and they've been there, and I know they've hung out and said that's a really
Yeah,
cool
I
place.
love
Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
great.
follow his game. He's working on the Slaughterhouse game. I think,
Samurai
recently.
Slaughterhouse. Yep.
Yeah, it's so. I've been following him for like a few months now. It's cool to.
Yeah.
He's posting
Actually,
almost
the
daily.
first time I went to the AR house was with Justin after Comic-Con last year.
that's right.
Oh,
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Small world.
Yeah.
yeah. Twitter. Get on Twitter, guys. That's
Yeah.
the real metaverse.
Sadly, it's not in a platform
It's not
yet,
VR
except
chat
for Twitter.
anymore.
Yep. Well, thanks again, guys. This is awesome. Anytime you want to come back and talk about whatever, like, we're here. So
Thank you.
definitely.
Yeah,
BT,
thanks for
and
having us.
It was super
I'm-
awesome and
Yeah.
awesome setting, and can't wait to see what this turns into. And yeah, we'll definitely come back with some more stuff at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having us, man. It was great.
Any links you guys want to share? Whoever's watching and listening, they'll be in the show notes. All your Twitter links and that stuff, obviously, but anything else, just let me know.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. And
I think
thank you
just,
for whoever is out
what-
there listening. If there's
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
What's
check
the
out
Wanduel
Wanduel.
site? Wanduel.xyz.
.com. Yeah, we have .com actually.
Oh, yeah, wanduel.com.
Wanduel.com at Wanduel, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Obscure
on all
Nerd
socials.
VR and Pratik
Suketu.
Suketi
Yeah.
and Sulipa and Wantool also on Twitter, but people probably saw that. And
Yeah.
check out the VR Verdict podcast if not already subscribed and following them.
Hit the like button, hit the notification bell. I know
Smash.
how this works. Hit that bell. If you haven't hit the bell and you're watching this, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'll do a dance.
Hit that bell.
Whatever you need.
Hit that bell.
I'm a little
guys.
pill.
Hit
I'm
that
a
bell.
pill and a ball. Hit the bell.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.